Welcome to OM Report by Alpar, your interview-focused podcast on topics from online marketing to internet startups.
Hi John, thanks for being here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. John Shehata, head of SEO on social media for ABC News and ABC Family, and recently Oscars.
All right. So the Oscars, like the show that gives away the prizes?
Yes.
Okay. So how's that? How's that project?
It's going good actually. For the last couple of years, we did a lot of changes. I can't talk about them right now. Still early. But it really showed great results year over year. Simple SEO steps, simple SEO tweaks here and there, thinking about content in a different way, and it really paid off.
And it's also really, really social topic. Like I mean, on the night of the event,
yes,
it must explode. It must be like the Uber event happening.
Absolutely. So the social team does a great job when it comes to Oscars. I'm not a part of that team, but they absolutely harnessed the buzz and around the topic.
All right. Okay, so what does your everyday job look like? I mean, do you travel from ABC entity to other entity, or are you like based in a headquarter, or how does that work everyday wise?
So I work from New York City headquarters, and I don't travel that much, but just recently I do travel to California frequently to work with other ABC properties. So ABC News is part of Disney, for you who don't know, and so I do travel to California. And day to day, it's focused more on strategy, and then I have my team focused on implementing the strategies, the tactics, the technical aspects, working with other departments to get things implemented.
Okay, so was William Sears working with you then?
Yes,
so
we
I
worked
interviewed
together.
him before, but only audio, not video.
He's a great guy. He works for Disney. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, what do you say? Like your typical everyday, job? Do you spend like a certain percentage in reporting, or in training, or in, really hands-on technical stuff, or what? Or is it like much of it is communication, like convincing people to buy in on certain projects?
Sure. So I wouldn't say like every day, but I would say a major part of what we do is education, training, selling the idea that SEO actually provide results to different departments, because departments invest time and resources in implementing SEO, and sometimes it's not the easiest thing to implement. So you work with tech teams, you work with the editorial teams, you work with C-level, right? And you show value in SEO recommendations for each of these teams, because you're gonna make them successful, right? You're gonna get more views for the editorial team. You're gonna get more sales for the C-level team. You're gonna get a better site architecture and less server errors for the tech team. So everyone gain a benefit, and this is how we do it in ABC News. We work with editorial team a lot, focusing on what's trending, what people are searching for, how they are searching for it, what is the best way to write for users who use machines to find our content. So we never optimize for search engines, but we optimize for users who use these search engines to find the content. Okay. If it makes sense.
Very elegant way to put it. Also, I really like the idea of how you're positively explaining who you're helping and how, where it sometimes can happen that they see you as an additional task that they need to do, even though it's not their actual task.
Absolutely.
So how do you get them, to change the view on that?
So it's again, everyone wants to be successful at what they do, right? So it goes back to the whole idea is we are here not to take over your job or tell you how to do it, right? Because you've been doing this for a long time. I'm in no place to tell an editor or a writer how to write. They know to write even before I came to the company. I'm in no place to tell a tech person how to code, but I'm only there just to enhance and take it to the next level, so they see much bigger impact for the things that they do in simple tweaks. So when we approach it this way, not in a territorial manner, but more like, hey, this is a helping hand, I'm just showing you how it can work better for you and for users, because at the end of the day, our goal is the end user. More sales, more views, more eyeballs, better branding for marketing, maybe less marketing budget because they spend thousands of dollars on these brand terms that the company doesn't rank for, and so on. So if you approach it this way and you educate and you inform and you become available for them to ask questions, usually it takes a little bit time, but you reach a point where they are the ones coming to you to help them with their next project because they want it to be successful.
Okay, so you would think it's like an in-house setup you're working in right
Yes.
now. Have you been on the other side, like the agency
absolutely.
side?
Yeah, I came from the dark side. Yeah.
Excuse me, you were mistaken. It's the other way around.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yes, I spent a couple of years on the agency side. I was fortunate enough to work in Fortune 500 companies. So agency is like a boot camp where you work in everything and you deal with all different kinds of clients and all different kinds of requests, the good ones and the silly ones, right? And you need to manage expectations and you need to manage recommendations, and you do the recommendations but they are not implemented, and you go into all these cycles. So I would advise any SEO to start always working for an agency first before they move in-house, because it gives you a whole new perspective on things. So agency is the best way to start as an SEO.
But I also think that probably agency work is many times focused on transactional or these kinds of businesses rather than the classical publishing house that you are. So probably there's a different set of skills that you would need, especially in a publishing context, right?
Oh, absolutely true. So
it's more technical, would you say, or more even more communicative, or how would you describe it different?
I would say it depends on first. It depends on the agency, right? Sometimes the agency takes an approach to manage certain industry because they're very good at it, right? Or e-commerce because they nailed it, right? Very few agencies work with media companies, even though these are the best companies to work with because they have all the content.
They have all the content and all the links usually.
And
too.
all the links.
So you just need to get the rest right, and then
exactly
it goes through the roof.
And you are a superhero actually because you have the links.
Do people see you already like that?
Sometimes.
Okay, great. That's good work then.
Because you mentioned you have all that great content, right? And then people love to link to these kind of sites. It's not an e-commerce site where you fight for a link, right? People link to you. You need to get your technical stuff, the infrastructure right.
Do people ask you, like, for example, you define a certain thing that should be changed? Do they ask you for how much more traffic is that going to bring us, even though if it's just a bug that needs to be cleaned out, and it's just like something that affects the sites in general, not as a whole, not as something very specific?
People will always come to you and say, okay, we're going to do all this work, what's the value there? So not in all cases you can show value, as you mentioned. On the specific things, or if you focus on a specific section of the site or focus on a specific set of terms and so on, you can say, okay, this is the missed opportunity, this is what we're going to gain, and this is how we translate it into dollar signs, right?
So you start off with a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I love missed opportunities. So because this is how C-level executives can read your work, right? Okay, we are missing on these 10 terms, which will translate into, let's say, 10 million additional page views a month, and our CTR conversion is, or our conversion rate is, let's say 1%, and so 10 million, 1%, this is the much money that we're gonna make. But not every single project you can put it in these terms. So, but what happens is, when you start with these projects that have value assigned to them, people trust you. So they don't keep asking you the same question every time. Once you gain their trust, and only then you can get more of your SEO projects. Canonical tag, okay, prove a value on that, right? Duplicate content, it's a huge value, but you cannot really translate it into a specific number. And sometimes with the algorithm changes, right? Because we have three different changing factors here. You have your site, you have your competitors, and you have the search engines, right? If it's only for the site, we know we do X, we get Y. But search engines do change their algorithm, and our competitors do marketing and SEO and all the stuff. So not every time you will get the results that you're hoping for.
I really like from your presentation you show that in the process that you always apply, there's like 2 steps, and one was quick wins and the other was big wins.
Yes.
So when we translate that to what you've just said with accountable SEO things that have to be done, and hardly to say how much they're going to bring SEO topics, then you would first go for those where you can clearly put a number on, gain trust, and then get to those that are like kind of hard to argue why they should work like that.
Absolutely, and it works for in-house and agency. If you can prove to your client that your work does actually provide value in very little time, because no one wants to wait 6 months to see results. Let's be honest on that, right? So people want to see results in as fast as possible. So if you approach quick wins, hey, we have a massive site and all the page titles are bad. Can we format it? So we work on the formats or the formula of the title.
So like a template level.
A template level, exactly. Can we do canonical tags? Can we fix the efficiency of the crawling a little bit? Can we work a little bit on the inline links? Things that on a template level. So, for example, a site like, let's not name sites. So a massive site with thousands or hundreds of thousands of products, you know that all these products share one template.
Sure.
If you fix this one template, you affected probably half of the site. And boom, you see the result immediately. Then you gain their trust because they saw the results. Then you get to the harder, bigger projects, and they won't be asking you why.
Does ABC work with videos a lot?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So how do you think, I guess the videos in your case, I mean, you're a TV station, so they must be hosted on your website, right?
Yes.
You don't put them on YouTube?
We actually have YouTube as well. We think of YouTube as it's like Facebook, right? So the whole idea of owning content, and it has to be on your site, I think this idea is getting less and less, what's the word? People are fighting less and less this idea, right? So more and more companies now look at Hulu, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter as extensions. You want to reach the community wherever it is. The old thinking of you need to always bring the community back to the site, it doesn't matter that much now, because the conversion could happen on Twitter, the conversion could happen on Facebook, could happen on YouTube, whatever the conversion is. If it's a sale, if it's a brand opportunity, and so on. So absolutely, we are on all these different places.
Okay. So how do you compete with YouTube, like as being Google? You know, when you see your videos trying to rank for the same terms as YouTube videos, you're always kind of on the weaker side, I think.
So there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can look at it as competing, or look at it as dominating more of the SERP.
Okay, right? So you would hope your video for a certain topic in YouTube is there as well as hosted on your website.
So you need a smart strategy, right, on how can you rank your video and YouTube video at the same time, right?
So give YouTube a short version and then the long version is over your website.
Or you focus on certain terms here and other long tail terms there. So there is a lot of other, or maybe for other companies, they don't care where's the video. Some other companies will actually have the video on YouTube, take the embed, add it to the site, add some video macro formats and or transcripts, and then it works both, because YouTube is a search engine in itself.
Sure.
People search in there, and at the same time you have the video and the transcripts. That is awesome for Google as well. SEO Moz does a lot of good stuff using these kind of approaches.
Okay. Another thing I heard you talk about on the side was you also have experience in one other language rather than English.
Yeah.
How does that compare to your English, so to SEO in the US?
So I think it's a good testing ground for certain tactics. sometimes it works. Like we were sharing about how certain stuff works in Europe or works in US but doesn't work in Europe and so on. So I use it as a testing ground. We also sometimes I like to see how long it takes for that tactic to stop working, already stop working in US, how long it takes for it to stop working in other countries as well. So for me, it's more like a testing ground.
Okay, and it broadens the horizon of what is possible, because just because it isn't possible in one point,
exactly,
it may be the other way around somewhere else.
Yeah, we think the Google algorithm is the same for everything. It's not really, because it depends on the volume of the content, the quality of the content, and many other factors, the ease of crawling the content, and it's the speed of these sites. So for example,
also the complexity of languages, right?
Absolutely, because if you think of one word in English and all the different alternatives, and think of other languages and the alternatives, it's one word could have 3 alternatives here, and in other languages may have 10. Or if you think about the number of characters in a word, right? When you think about AdWords, for example, if you think of Asian languages, exactly, Chinese and stuff like this, it's a whole different game.
You can write a book on Twitter.
Exactly, yes.
In one tweet.
Yes, actually, if you count the number of characters, I believe in Chinese, in Twitter, it's a whole paragraph almost. Yeah.
So they can say a lot more than we can. We always feel a little limited.
Yes, true.
So how do you guys work together in the different entities that there are in ABC? Is there is there in each entity somebody that is like a sparring partner for your SEO efforts? It's kind of the SEO chief within each entity, or
you mean entity like departments, or like entities across properties across ABC?
The properties across ABC.
Yes, there are. So each property has its own SEO localized person, right? We call him the SEO ambassador, right?
Is he reporting to you personnel-wise, or is he in the entity structure, embedded in the entity structure? It's more in
the entity structure, okay, right? But they work very closely to us, right?
Okay.
So, and I believe this is the best approach, even for social media, right? So, because they are the closest to the content that this entity is producing, right? Yeah. Versus having a centralized group that control social and SEO for a lot of different entities. So the closer they are to the content, and then if you can have some kind of a working relationship with them, you provide them recommendation, you provide them reports. Reports is a great tool to work with other entities, and so on. Usually it becomes a very successful relationship.
So how does it work at ABC? Do you meet once a week or once a month with everybody, or is the meetings rather individual?
There are different structures to how we meet for different properties. So it's not the same approach fits all.
Okay. So can you name an example so one can really better understand?
Yes. What I meant is, certain properties we have bi-weekly meetings, other properties they don't need that, it's a monthly meeting. Others will actually have weekly meetings, so different based on the volume of the content and the type of the content and so on.
And the complexity of the problems that they have, and since how long they are, and at what level on SEO.
Yeah, and it depends. Certain companies will have the same technology platform for all their properties. Other companies may have different technology platforms for each of their property. So it's the complexity level is different from one company to another.
One last question: How do you personally get better at SEO? What do you do to, increase your knowledge?
I think reading is the most important. Reading and then testing and applying what you read. So first you start.
Reading, that will be blogs and forums.
Yes, you should have a circle of people who you trust. Not every single advice out there is accurate, and you have to be careful on which advice that you get. So, for example, I recommend to people blogs like SEO Moz or SEO Book, Search Engine Land, Search Engine Watch. These are really major trusted sites that have a lot of information. Then you can go into special paid or subscription-based ones. SEO Book has a lot of great material and very strong forum out there. And then you should have always your own sites to test with, because to test with your client site or to test with your company site, it's not the right approach, because you have to be very careful.
Do you think that the sites that you do your tests on should be owned by the company or should be owned by you? For example,
you should be
you personnel?
Yes, yes.
But even though the tests are for ABC that you run, it would also make sense if ABC would provide you a testing ground, right?
It depends from one company to another. You have to remember, the bigger the company, the bigger the legal team, the bigger the restrictions, right?
Okay.
So when you test on your own stuff, first you measure, is it worth it or not? Oh, okay, we don't want to have two H1s at the site, at the page. It has to be H1. Okay, you change that, and then you wait, and you measure the difference. Okay, we did that work, and think, like, multiply that by millions of pages. Did it make a difference or not? So it's a good testing ground. It's good tool for coding. I encourage everyone to have some kind of technical understanding. You don't have to code yourself, but you need to understand what the code means. So you need to look at the code and, oh, okay, I understand. This is the head section. These are the tags. These tags are important. So these kind of basic elements are extremely important.
So did you sometimes also show people the stuff from your tests to argue that something should be done on the big news websites?
It depends on the test, right?
Okay.
Sometimes there are tests that you don't want to share, right?
Sure.
Right? But absolutely it helps, right? But again, it goes back to the trust, right?
Yeah.
When people understand that you know what you're doing, and you proved before that you really provide value, and the results are showing, and the numbers are there, they become more and more willing to take your idea and test it. And even sometimes it's
Even
like,
if they don't have proof, they don't know how much it's going to bring.
Yes.
They just go for it because they know from history that you've always helped them increase it.
And again, it depends on the priorities of the company. One of the things I mentioned in today's session is, if you are successful in aligning your projects with the company's projects, then you can get your projects in. So you have your own list. You know that project 1 is much more important than project 3, but you know the company, for example, is working on a product that relates to project 3. Get project 3 in now, because they are working in it, and they will not change the whole company's priorities just to meet your priorities. So you have to be flexible.
Very smart approach. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, man. Thanks, Andre.
OMReport and Andre Alpar would like to thank you for your attention. You can get more episodes on www.OMReport.com.